Hello everybody, welcome to episode 82 of Show Viewers. Today we'll be going over episode 7 of Invincible Season 4. This episode was entitled, Don't Do Anything Rash. Yeah, Don't Do Anything Rash. And, peak cinema from Invincible again, guys. Honestly, I believe this episode, it wasn't as good in my personal opinion as the Mark vs. Conquest episode, because, that was chills. But this episode gave me chills multiple times as well. So we start off with the episode, and we get a bit of a flashback, actually, to when Argyle is still running over Viltrum. And we see as there's this one planet that Viltrumites have subjugated, and the citizens of it end up running like a terrorist attack on Viltrumite production. And then we see as they're kind of like in a board meeting where you have Argyle at the top, then you have Thrag standing beside him as regent. Then there's Craig's in there, and Thetis is in there. And then on top of it, we see as Thetis is promoting a more pacifist reaction to this, and while Craig is like, yo, we need to go and eradicate them, and Argyle's pushing that opinion as well. And Argyle, they got him a good VA, because he sounds like intimidating, like almost scary. His voice is like kind of creepy in a way. And honestly, I loved it. I was absolutely there for it. And I've honestly, Thrag's VA has grown a little bit on me. After watching this episode, I was like, hold up. I kind of like this a little bit. But, yeah, so we see this, and, they're just going to briefly talk and discuss like that, and we see as Argyle is ultimately talking with Thrag after this meeting. He's like discussing, I guess, Thetis is really, I guess, pacifism since coming off a planet where he was forced to subjugate and all that. He's like one of their top warriors, and they just mention how recently he's become more of a pacifist. And then we actually get a brief clip of where we see Argyle is in the throne room. We see his Thetis is up in the rafters with his knife, and this is presumably when the assassination happened. After this, we see some Viltrumites are descending from the air with Argyle's coffin in. They are ultimately dropping it down. And then we see as Thrag gets a speech as the new Grand Regent. He gets his little fur coat, and he just gives a bit of a speech. And this is when the purge starts. He's like, yeah, we would not have betrayers or traitors if we did not have this weakness, so we're going to purge this weakness. And we see as everyone starts going to town, throwing hands, going crazy. We actually just see Crad a little bit. Lucan's little guy who got, little friend that got shot the other day by a space racer. But yeah, we see this, and they're kind of fighting and all of that, and it legit is such a cool scene, because we literally see as blood is raining down. Like, you see it covers Argyle's coffin and all that, and we see his Thrag just kind of walks in from the throne room and sits down. And then we see is ultimately once he comes out, everything's done, all the screaming, all that's happening. Like, we even saw the kids fighting, so that's how harsh it was. And after this purge, he walks out and he sees, I believe it's Craig. There was one of the woman Viltrumites. I think it might have been the woman with the blade in her hair. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, and we see Conquest. And then he pulls up, he's like, stop, it's all done. And Conquest is like, I don't want to stop. And he gives Thrag the stink out. I thought they were about to throw it out. I was like, I would have literally paid money to see that. That would have been so sick if we got to see a Conquest versus Thrag fight. Because I was gonna presume, when he was giving him that stink out, before everything was settled down, I was like, crap, this is how Conquest lost his eye, got a scar and all. I was like, he went up against Thrag, but yeah, that obviously didn't happen, and the situation was settled. And then we end up going back to the present day. And we just kind of see as everyone's preparing to ultimately go to Viltrum. We see as they're eating their last meals and stuff like that, preparing, suiting up and all that stuff. And ultimately they pull up on Viltrum. And they're sifting through the body belt, I'd essentially call it, of all the corpses that surround Viltrum. And not Omni-Man, but Nolan kind of gives a brief discussion of it, of why they decided to essentially bury them there. And it was to remind them of their failures and their weakness, so that each time they left the homeland, they knew that they needed to be strong. So yeah, we see this, and they're going through, and ultimately they pull it out of the belt, and no one's there, and they see Thrag, and they're like, all right, let's fight Thrag. They were hiding. The Viltrumites were hiding in the corpse belt, or the body belt, what I'm going to call it. And they come out, and the fight begins. Woo-wee. This fight was masterpiece. This was a legit, 40 minutes of fighting, but it was, grabbing the entire time. And we see kind of some fighting going around, and we see as they're kind of going, it's back and forth, really. No one's really winning because there's no fatalities yet. And we see as they're employing their Viltrumite weaknesses, we see as Zoe, the tech jacket, ends up using the little darts with the poisons in them, that weakens Viltrumites. We see this, she hits a dart on one of the Viltrumites, and she's like, Alan, go get him. Alan punches through this dude's abdominal cavity through his mouth. So yeah, we can see that poison is very effective at weakening Viltrumites. Yeah, so we see this, and we just kind of see some more general, fighting and all that stuff. It's, I can't really describe it. It is just fighting. But, guys, You need to watch this episode. This episode is so good. Like if you want to catch up on if you need a reason to catch up on Invincible, for the Conquest versus Mark and for this episode is so good. Yeah, so we see them fighting. We ultimately get to see as Nolan and Thrag go up against each other. I was like, oh, this is about to go crazy. But we see Nolan and Thrag go up against each other, and ultimately, Nolan is not a match for Thrag. Thrag smites him down to the land of Viltrumite, and he ends up going down there. And he didn't really want to kill him. He went into the talk with him. They kind of discussed briefly, and we see as Thrag's like, yo, you could join us. We are your family. We know you better than anyone, and you could join us and be triumphant and kind of protect your family as well. But Nolan's like, no, I can't do that. Protecting my family and protecting my family's homeland would be by staying with the coalition. And Thrag brings up a good point. He's like, what will Thetis do after this, after you've killed all the Viltrumites? Won't he just kill your family as well? But then we see as Thrag and Nolan kind of go into the throne room discussing a little bit more. And ultimately, it ends the conversation ultimately ends with neither of them really making any progression towards their ultimate goal of getting the other to join their forces. And Thrag hits Nolan with a daggone uppercut and sends him flying back out into space. And we see as Thrag comes back out there, and kind of starts fighting a little bit more as well, because now he is enraged. And so we see him fighting, and everything's just kind of going around, and ultimately him and Nolan kind of stop fighting for a brief time. We see as, honestly, the MVP in this whole interaction was Space Racer. Space Racer, I believe, had the most bodies out of anyone in this whole thing. Like, he had the most kills, because I think he killed every bit of 2 or 3 Viltrumites. But yeah, so we see him, and he ends up bringing the Ragnar with his little bike, and he pulls him along. And also, forgot to mention about this, I thought he was going to die at one point because he got his mask shattered, but Zoe ended up coming up and repairing it for him, so he was fine. But yeah, so he ends up pulling the Ragnar, and the Ragnar start going to town. They start attacking like crazy, and it's really cool to see. Honestly, I think the Ragnar had at least 1 Viltrumite kill. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but yeah, but I still think Space Racer was like MVP for this. But yeah, so we see this, and as Thrag comes back up, we see as little old Oliver gets the great decision to go up against the Grand Regent of the Viltrumites when he couldn't even barely handle Conquest. And he runs up, Thrag catches his punch, crushes his hand, rips off his arm, and then punches his jaw off. And it's funny because we keep seeing Oliver's corpse in the background. Well, not corpse, his body, because he's not dead. But we keep seeing it floating in the background, just random shots. There's like this one scene where we just see like Oliver, it's like almost everything after he's just like floating there for like a couple of seconds. It's just goofy. But yeah, he pieces up Oliver. And we see as Mark gets like enraged after this, and he's like, you killed Oliver, he's like, I killed Conquest, and I'll kill you too. And I was expecting Mark to like go crazy after this, because like honestly, we see like I've been presuming recently that Mark is kind of like a Gohan situation where he's not really that strong unless he gets mad. And, I mean, that's what we saw with Conquest. He was mad because he was getting revenge. And I thought he was about to get revenge here and go crazy against Thrag. No. He goes up to get Thrag. We see impact frames. I felt right at home, guys. So I was like, oh, it's just like One Piece. And it was, honestly, the impact frames were crazy. Like, they look sick. They made Thrag look intimidating. And not Invincible. Mark goes up to do this, and he absolutely fails. He does not get barely a lick on Thrag. So we see this kind of keeps going on a little bit more, and ultimately the coalition gets kind of put on the ropes a little. And so we see ultimately as Thetis, Mark, and Nolan start kind of like they group up briefly, and they start to initiate a plan. So they start flying towards Viltrum. And they're like, what's going on here and everything. And everyone, they're telling him to join around him. He tells Space Racer to get to the front. And we're like, what's going on? But eventually, Thrag catches onto it. Their goal is to destroy the planet. They get Space Racer to shoot one of his big old beams into the planet. And Nolan, Thetis, and Mark all blast down to just like go through it as well to make sure everything is destroyed. And they keep going. We see Thrag. He's like, no! And he starts to head after him, but he ultimately doesn't catch up to him. And they just start blasting through everything. And they blast. And ultimately, Viltrum is blown up. Everything is destroyed. And I was not expecting that at all, because I really didn't know Viltrum disappeared. But yeah, it disappears because he gets blown up. But yeah, so we see this, and ultimately they come out on the other side, and everyone's kind of freaked out. They're like, whoa. We even see the Viltrumites. Like, we see a view of Luke, and him and Alan were like fighting back there. He's just like, and We see this when we see Thetis and Mark Nolan briefly talk, and then we see as Thrag is like, oh crap, I can't remember what he exactly says, because Thetis says something before. Thrag overhears him. He busts through an asteroid, and he's like, no, I choose death rather than, I guess, this defeat. And he runs at Thetis, just swipes Thetis' head off. He rips one of the like stronger Viltrumites that we've seen, like going pretty toe to toe with multiple Viltrumites, just like he was grabbing like I don't even know what. You know those videos of the people like put a bunch of stuff on the table and like real fast. That's what he did. That's what he did to Thetis. He ripped his head off like that, and then promptly crushed it. He's like, Argyle has been avenged now. Then he goes after Nolan. He blasts Nolan, keeps going flying into space. And we see as Mark goes after him, and Mark tells Alan to go look for Oliver. But as Alan goes to look for Oliver, he gets accosted by a bunch of Viltrumites. And he's holding himself pretty well. He's doing like a 3v1 against them. And we kind of see as he fights around briefly. And then when he gets like a brief 1v1 moment with Lucan, I was like, bro, I want Alan to kill Lucan. Because they need to have like a concluding fight. Because they've been fighting each other a lot recently. So I was like, I want to kind of see Lucan die here. But Lucan's a cool character. So I mean, I don't really want to see him die. But it'd be cool to see Alan get a W like that. But yeah, we see this, and then we see Space Searcher go off. This technically happens afterwards, but I'll go back to the Thrag and Nolan stuff. But we can see as Thrag and Nolan go up against each other briefly, and Nolan ain't even a match, buddy. We see Mark goes after him too, but yeah, Nolan ends up getting pieced up. He ends up getting the daggum Conquest treatment, or Mark treatment, technically by Conquest, and he gets his arm broken. Then Mark and Nolan are ready to go and fight again. So ultimately, Thrag goes for a Mark, and Nolan comes out of nowhere and like hits him to get him distracted, and then Thrag was not taking that. He busts a hole through Nolan. I was like, oh! It's literally shows in my spot as well, because the people are getting like death blows in this match. Thrag is not holding back, and yeah, so Thrag punches a hole through him, then like pulls out his guts a little bit. I don't know why Viltrumites don't just like tear, because like I mean, if you just like tearing, that's gonna be a lot more effective at killing them than just like a rope, just like magic trick, like. But yeah, so we see this, and ultimately he ends up pushing Nolan aside, and then he pulls up on Mark, and he's like grabs him by the head and starts pushing in his eyes, and we see as Mark tries to fight at first, and then just goes limp. Ultimately, the other Viltrumites pill up. Viltrumites pill up. Yeah, the Viltrumites pill up. The Viltrumites pull up, and they're like, yo, kill him. Make sure it's all over. And he's like, no, we're already... Thrag actually shows some mercy, and he's like, no, we're already too few as a society. So he lets him live. And they go flying off. And we don't learn where they're going flying off to the end of the episode. But yeah, so we see as Mark and Nolan float through space briefly, presuming that they will die pretty soon. But then ultimately, a coalition ship pulls up. And then we see as Mark wakes up on Telescria, where Alan is now kind of serving as a kind of like a regent over Telescria, where he's only temporary, while the coalition kind of decides on another leader, since Thetis is goop. But yeah, so we see this. We see that Nolan has recovered pretty well, and we see that Oliver is healing in like one of those cryo tank things. Not a cryo tank, but crap, I can't even remember the Star Wars name is for him. But one of those tanks where you heal. But yeah, so we see this, and then we see as they go and briefly discuss about like the situation and everything. They mentioned how the Viltrumites have essentially just disappeared and they're nowhere to be found. But we see Mark looks distressed briefly, and he's like, well, that's what distress sounds like, or looks and sounds like, but you get the point. And Alan's like, yo, what are you looking so distressed about? And Mark's like, I don't know, I said like 8,000 times there, I apologize. But Mark then states that they have went to Earth. He has deduced that they have went to Earth. So we might get to see some peak next episode, because I honestly want to see Mark go crazy because they're attacking his homeland. And like Earth, if Nolan and Mark don't have a chance to get Thrag, the Guardians are cooked, buddy. There is nothing the Guardians are going to be able to do. Yeah, so that's where the episode ends. We didn't actually get a post-credit scene or a credit scene this episode, but episode was so good. I think Thrag is literally my favorite character in all of Invincible now. He is so cool. Like, he's a very complex character to be a villain. Like, he has nuance to him, and that's what makes a good villain. And I mean, he's a very nationalist individual. He's utilitarian for his people. He wants what's best for them, but at a harsh degree. He's not going for the benefit of all. He's going for the benefit of the best, but the best are his people. So I don't really know how to explain that, but Thrag is obviously, like, I'd say he's almost obviously my number one favorite character of Invincible right now. He is goated. But yeah, that's all there really was for episode 7 of Invincible Season 4, and all I really have for episode 82 of Show Review. So thank you very much for watching.